Hi there, and thank you for joining me for today's live reading of Finding Love by Julie Navickas, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1, Rachel. Rachel sank in her seat as she glided her hands over the rip in the faux leather cushion. She frowned and lifted her gaze to her twin brother, Ryan, catching the tail end of his eye roll from across the sticky table. Rach, I'm sorry that you're hurting, but we both know Ian was not the one. He wrapped his arm around Tessa's shoulder. Pressing a kiss to the top of his girlfriend's blonde head, he sighed. I mean, you said so yourself. I did. But her chest ached with the unexpected loss. She cleared her throat and nodded. I might have said that, she mumbled and sipped her strawberry margarita. Then why are you taking this breakup with Ian so hard? Ryan asked. Rachel shrugged and gripped her glass, twirling the straw in a lazy circle as the roar of bar patrons at Highside filled her ears. She took another gulp and relished the cold liquid as it slid down her throat. The truth nagged at the back of her brain, pawing and pinching at her mind. Admit it. You know why it hurt so much. Rachel shook her head. I guess, she muttered and lifted her gaze to the TV screen, rolling a highlight reel of the Los Angeles Rams' most recent victory. I just assumed that when our relationship was over, it would have been me who ended it. And how terrible does that make me? Tess picked at her fingernails and peeled the pink paint away from the nail bed. I kind of thought so too. I liked Ian, but. Right? Rachel groaned. And I know how bad that makes me sound. Raising her shoulders, she frowned. I just thought we'd have a little more fun together and then we'd move on. He grew on me, though, more than I expected him to. Ian's hand clasped hers in a memory, squeezing her palm as a silly fun fact dripped from his endearing lips, until Ryan's snort shattered the recollection. You cannot tell me you miss all the fun science facts, or the Celestron, he cringed. Literally, that's all the guy talked about stars and planets. That's not true. Rachel rolled her eyes. I know he was a little nerdy, she shrugged, but there was a lot more to him that you didn't get to see. We spent a full weekend with the guy, shared a tent even. Ryan's eyes widened as he leaned forward. Trust me, we saw and heard plenty. No, you saw the introverted Ian forced to be in a crowd. You didn't get to know him one on one, snuggled beneath the blankets on a Sunday morning. Rachel sighed. You don't get it. I don't expect you to. Reaching across the table, Ryan gripped her hand. Here's what I do get. I get that he made you happy. I get that he was meant for fun. And I get that it's hard to be dumped. As he shook his head, pity poured from his dark brown eyes, complementing the sad smile on his lips. Ian wasn't my favorite guy, but I'll admit that if it were not for him and his fun facts, I may not have found my way back to Tess. Tess sucked in a breath as she turned, her wide-eyed gaze zeroing in on him. Wait, what? Ryan's cheeks flushed. He just helped me see things from a new perspective. He was good at that, added Rachel. He was good at a lot of things. Rach, Tess hesitated. Can I ask, what was his reason? Why'd he end it? Rachel pressed her lips together as the now familiar squeeze in her heart throbbed deep within her chest. Oh, she swallowed the margarita returning from her stomach. He said we were too different. That's it? Tess frowned and popped a fried pickle in her mouth. Mostly. With a grin, Ryan tipped his beer glass to his lips and drained the last bit of liquid. He wiped his mouth with the sleeve of his sweatshirt. What's that supposed to mean? Mostly. Rachel folded her arms across her chest as the truth tickled her tongue. She sighed and lowered her gaze to her lap. It's kind of embarrassing. Rach? Her brother's foot bumped into hers beneath the table. He. She started before sinking further into the booth. He called me out. Apparently, I live my life for everyone else but myself. Ugh, gosh, is he really right? Tessa's eyes widened as she slurped the last bit of her white Russian. She cleared her throat before leaning into Ryan. He's right. No way. Rolling her eyes again, Rachel propped her elbows on the table and stared at the tiny bit of squashed strawberry left at the bottom of her glass. I just love my family and I like seeing everyone happy. What's so wrong with that? Her palms smacked the surface of the table. I mean, I might poke my nose in a bit. Poke your nose in a bit? Ryan barked out a laugh and nodded at the waitress as she cleared their empty drinks from the table. Rach, your nose is so far into everyone's business that it's hard to breathe. She scowled. That's so unfair and untrue. Is it? Come on, guys, Tess murmured as the waitress returned in record speed with another round of drinks. Cheers, y'all, she muttered and shuffled away, leaving behind the growing tension at the table. Rach, Ryan sighed and tilted his head. Ian has a point. I'm not saying that I'm not thankful for the support and encouragement you've shown us over the last few months. He swung his arm over Tessa's shoulder again. But to be fair, at times it felt like I was overstepping, she added. Her stomach sank, nauseated by the recipe of truth and tequila beneath her nose. I get it. Tess leaned forward and gripped her hand. Please don't be so hard on yourself. Maybe this is a sign. A good sign. My boyfriend just dumped me, and you guys are telling me I'm too overbearing. How can this be a good sign? How? Tess is right. Ryan readjusted the ball cap on his head, flipping the brim around to the back. Maybe this is the universe's way of telling you to prioritize yourself for once. He nudged her beneath the table with his foot again. Do what's best for you, not me and Tess, not Rose and Cole. Do you, Rach. Think about what you want. Me, huh? Rachel brought the glass to her lips and sipped until the fresh strawberry liquor numbed her tongue. What I want, she repeated as the advice sank in. Sure, but what do I want? 2 hours later, Rachel stared at her laptop and scrolled through the most recent properties listed out of habit. With a sigh, she snuggled deeper under the covers and stretched her legs out sideways across the queen-size bed. Her gaze drifted to the empty space beside her, a stark reminder of Ian's absence. I miss you, she whispered to the pillow. Disappointment settled in her gut, the reality of being single again souring her stomach. Ryan has Tess, Rose has Cole, and I'm just the sad, pathetic Prescott sibling who can't find love. A breath left her lips as she closed the laptop and grabbed her phone. I can't believe I'm about to do this again. With a scoff, Rachel logged in and refreshed her Bumble dating profile. Ian's face appeared as her last match, and she quickly tapped the X in the corner. She reread her bio and cringed as both self-loathing and embarrassment tingled along her spine, the simple paragraph inducing a thin layer of sweat to appear on her forehead. Her eyes glossed over her previous words. An adventurous, free-spirited woman living life authentically. I value connection and thrive on deep conversations, looking for an accountable man who is ambitious, generous, dependable, and values family. Rachel scrunched her nose at the generic string of words. This is stupid, she whispered, but clicked save anyway. Sadness crept into her soul, ready to jumpstart her heart with another pity party. I don't know what else to do, though, she whispered with a shrug. How the fuck else am I supposed to prioritize myself? Swallowing the sorrow building in her chest, she reactivated her profile and groaned as the first suggestion appeared on her screen. Bobby, she muttered. Into LARP and composting. Rachel cringed. Looking for a woman ready to role play. With a snicker, she swiped left. Sorry, Bobby, not my cup of tea. Andrew appeared on her screen next, his frosted tips a dead ringer for a winner at a 2001 Justin Timberlake lookalike contest. Okay, Andrew, looking for a man or a woman ready to mosh at the next rave. And nope. Swiping left again, Rachel snorted and moved her laptop to the nightstand. She turned off the bedside lamp and tugged at the covers. Squinting at the bright glare on her phone screen, Keith's face looked back as she pressed her cheek to the pillow. And Keith, with a passion for breeding snakes, spiders, and rodents. Her eyes widened as a smile tickled her lips. Hard pass, Keith. The next face appeared. Tripp's sexy grin sent an immediate tingle racing along her skin, his bright blue eyes lifting her spirit as she read his profile. An adrenaline junkie living life in the moment. I thrive on adventure and spontaneity, looking for a woman ready to sleep beneath the stars and climb the tallest mountain. Okay, Trip, I probably won't jump out of an airplane with you tomorrow, but I won't turn down a rock climbing adventure. Rachel snickered and swiped right. Can't hurt to try. Stephen's face appeared next. His thick, plastic framed glasses resembled a large bug. Stephen, she grinned. Computers, coding, and a CPA. Swiping left, Rachel pressed her lips together. No more accountants, please. Ready to continue the split-second dating decisions with another flick of her finger, Rachel paused as the message appeared in her inbox. A note from Trip. She clicked accept and a smile blossomed on her lips as she read the words addressed to her. Hi, Rachel. It's nice to connect with you. Giggling into the sheets, she eyed his sexy grin once more and tapped reply. Chapter 2. Miguel. Smoke invaded his nose. The nauseating smell sparked instant panic in his gut. What's burning? Miguel whipped his head around and squinted at each stovetop in the kitchen. His gaze zeroed in on the boiling pan of cooking oil, smoking unattended on the furthest burner. No, not again. Dropping the clipboard in his grasp, Miguel lunged for the ticking time bomb and gripped the handle before gently shifting it aside and away from the open flame. Who's cooking with this? He roared with sweat dripping from his brow. He turned off the burner and stared daggers at the smattering of prep cooks and kitchen assistants. Fury built in his chest with each passing silent second. I asked, who is cooking with this? What's wrong, boss? Michelle's weak voice echoed in the still kitchen. What's wrong? Miguel hung his head. What's wrong? He repeated and pointed at the slowly cooling cooking oil. Who here knows the exact temperature at which smoking vegetable oil turns into a pan of wildfire? The eerie silence rang in the kitchen, all eyes focused on the smoldering oil. Anger bubbled in his belly as their blank stares returned his simple question. 450, he muttered and pointed at the smoking pan again. At 450 degrees Fahrenheit, cooking oil becomes an uncontrollable flame. I'll give you 3 guesses what temp this pan. The memory impaled him. The chaos of the freak accident hammered into his mind as flames licked his brain with recall. Releasing a breath, Miguel shook his head and closed his eyes as the screams faded. Pier 92 burned to the ground in a grease fire once. On my watch. And so help me God, it will not happen again. We have to be more careful, you guys, he added. We're sorry, boss, Michelle whispered. Lifting his hand to his forehead, Miguel kneaded the brewing headache. He sighed and returned his gaze to the kitchen staff. His heart sank at their stunned, motionless expressions. Shit, you guys, The door to his right burst open, and Kate and Callie walked in, both balancing a stack of empty bread baskets. They froze in unison to stare at the still kitchen. What? Kate frowned. I look crazy, don't I? Miguel backed away from the hot oil and retreated to the dropped clipboard on the floor. He picked it up with a still sinking heart, witnessing the slow movements of the staff as they returned to their jobs. I overreacted, he mumbled and locked eyes with Michelle as she dunked a utensil in a pot and stirred. A shy grin lifting her lips. Must have been one hell of a fire. She ladled soup into a bowl and stepped away. The flames reappeared in his mind, the heat returning to sear his skin. Eyeing the pink scar spanning the length of his right forearm, he sighed. I can't let it happen again. I won't let it happen again, he whispered, and lifted his line of sight to the orders piling up on the digital screen. Oi, Dennis, where are we at with that salmon? Callie called as she refilled the baskets with fresh bread. Table 10 is complaining about the wait. Her voice faded away as Miguel slipped out the side door and into the hallway. Groaning with each step forward, he trudged to his office and shut the door. The quiet space penetrated his ears. The calls and clanks echoed from the kitchen in the distance. With a heavy sigh, he sank into his seat and rolled toward the desk. Drawn like a magnet, his gaze latched onto the photograph in front of him. The memories of original Pier 92 returned to his mind's eye, Lauren's beaming smile squeezing his heart with the ghosts of the past. I miss you, boss, he whispered. Resting a finger on her face beneath the glass, Miguel closed his eyes and dropped his head to the surface of the desk. You ran this place so much better than me. His body relaxed against the wood. And who am I kidding? I miss having you by my side. But I see why you give this place up. The memory of Lauren Templeton Benson's laughter sang in his ears. The years spent together, working side by side, running the restaurant, consuming his heart. Miguel opened his eyes, and the solitary office looked back, a stark comparison to the lingering loneliness in his soul. The phone rang and Miguel scooped it up. Yeah? Boss, it's Michelle. There's a lady on line 2 for you. She says she's the new head chef you hired. Oh, okay, yeah, put Melissa through. He straightened and rolled his neck around his shoulders as the line clicked over. Mr. Rodriguez? Yep. Hi, Melissa. How are you? Calling with some bad news, I'm afraid. His stomach clenched, taking with it the last remaining ounce of patience for the day. Sighing into the phone, he cringed. Well, I'm not really sure how to say this, so I'm just going to say it. I'm sorry to tell you I can no longer accept the job you offered me. My husband is being relocated to the East Coast, and her voice drifted away in a meaningless wave of noise. Dropping his forehead into his palms, Miguel wrinkled his nose. It took me 3 months to find and hire you. You were supposed to start next week. A clank from the kitchen echoed down the hall, rattling his brain even through his closed office door. Damn it. Now what am I supposed to do? The kitchen is falling apart. Mr. Rodriguez, can you hear me? Miguel swallowed. Yes, I can. Sorry. Well, like I said, I do apologize for the trouble, she added. It's okay. It's so not okay. My best wishes to you in the future. The line disconnected. Miguel closed the front door and flipped the lock. Rubbing his eyes at the late hour, he waved at Michelle. She tugged on a sweater and stepped out from behind the bar. You heading out too? She asked. Miguel shook his head. Not yet. I need to post a new ad before calling it a night. For what? He sighed. A head chef. Wait, I thought you just hired one. I did. He rolled his eyes, but she can't take the job anymore. Miguel leaned forward on the bar and picked out a sticky crumb. Back to square one, he murmured. Well, shit, that sucks. We really need an extra hand back there, and some leadership. She flung her arms in the air and huffed out a breath. I mean, you saw the mishap this afternoon. Miguel blew out a heavy breath. Sure did. With a frown, Michelle adjusted the purse strap on her shoulder. Anything I can do? He shook his head. No, it's okay. You go home. It's been a long day. You sure? Because I can totally stay and go home. He smiled and sank into a bar stool. But I appreciate your offer. Good night then, boss. Night, Michelle. Thanks for your work today. She nodded and her footsteps echoed down the hall, the tiny tinkle of a bell sounding in the distance as she exited the building. Groaning, Miguel stood and pushed the bar stool back in place. He eyed the swanky new space, recalling the formal walls, decorations, and Lauren's signature style when she owned Pier 92 no more than a year ago. Lauren, he whispered and tugged a beer from the mini fridge behind the bar. Miguel brought the bottle to his lips and gulped down the cold liquid. It slid down his throat and quelled the scratchy burn from a day spent managing the restaurant. Job ads and inventory, health inspections and party planning, he mumbled before wiping his lips with the back of his hand. I see why you handed it over and left. Not to mention you were married, and I was hopelessly in love with you.